and he and the men were laughing about Krell. "Marta, could you in any way get space helmets and get out to bring them over here to us?" Kent asked eagerly. "There's a lot of spacesuits and helmets here," she answered, "but I couldn't get out with them. Rance, I couldn't get to the airlocks with Jandron's 7 or 8 men down there guarding them." Kent felt despair. Then, as an idea suddenly flamed in him, he almost shouted into the instrument. "Marta, unless you can get over here with helmets for us, we're all lost. I want you to put on a spacesuit and helmet at once." There was a short silence, and then her voice came, a little muffled. "I've got the suit and helmet on, Rance. I'm wearing the suit phone inside it." "Good. Now, can you get up to the pilot house? There's no one guarding it or the upper deck. Hurry up there, then, at once." Crane and the rest were staring at Kent. "Kent, what are you going to have her do?" Crane exclaimed. "It'll do no good for her to start the Pallas. Those guards will be up there in a minute." "I'm not going to have her start the Pallas," said Kent grimly. "Marta, you're in the pilot house? Do you see the heavy little steel door in the wall beside the instrument panel?" "I'm at it, but it's locked with a combination lock," she said. "The combination is 6347781, Kent told her swiftly. "Open it as quickly as you can." "Good God, Kent!" cried Crane. "You're going to have her—" "Get out of there the only way she can," Kent finished fiercely. "You have the door open, Marta?" "Yes. There are 6 or 7 control wheels inside." "Those wheels control the Pallas's exhaust valves," Kent told her. "Each wheel opens the valves of one of the ship's decks or compartments and allows its air to escape into space. They're used for testing leaks in the different deck and compartment divisions. Marta, you must turn all those wheels as far as you can to the right." "But all the ship's air will rush out. The guards below have no suits on, and they'll be—" she was exclaiming. Kent interrupted. "It's the only chance for you, for all of us. Turn them." There was a moment of silence, and Kent was going to repeat the order when her voice came, lower in tone, a little strange. "I understand, Rance. I'm going to turn them." There was silence again, and Kent and the men grouped around him were tense. All were envisioning the same thing, the air rushing out of the Pallas's valves, and the unsuspecting guards in its lower deck smitten suddenly by instantaneous death. Then Marta's voice, almost a sob. "I turned them, Rance. The air puffed out all around me." "Your spacesuit is working all right?" "Perfectly," she said. "Then go down and tie together as many space helmets as you can manage. Get out of the airlock and try to get over to the Martian Queen with them. Do you think you can do that, Marta?" "I'm going to try," she said steadily. "But I'll have to pass those men in the lower deck I just killed. Don't be anxious if I don't talk for a little." Yet her voice came again almost immediately. "Rance, the pumping has stopped. They must have pumped all the fuel into the Pallas." "Then Jandron and the rest will be coming back to the Pallas at once," Kent cried. "Hurry, Marta!" The suit phone was silent, and Kent and the rest, their faces closely pressed against the deck windows, peered intently along the wreck pack's edge. The Pallas was hidden from their view by the wrecks between, and there was no sign as yet of the girl. Kent felt his heart beating rapidly. Crane and Liggett pressed beside him, the men around them. Krell's face was a mask as he too gazed. Kent was rapidly becoming convinced that some mischance had overtaken the girl when an exclamation came from Liggett. He pointed excitedly. She was in sight, unrecognizable in spacesuit and helmet, floating along the wreck pack's edge towards them. A mass of the glassite space helmets tied together was in her grasp. She climbed bravely over the stern of a projecting wreck and shot on towards the Martian Queen. The airlock's door was open for her, and when she was inside it, the outer door closed and air hissed into the lock. In a moment she was in among them, still clinging to the helmets. Kent grasped her swaying figure and removed her helmet. "Marta, you're all right?" he cried. She nodded a little weakly. "I'm all right. It was just that I had to go over those guards that were all frozen. Terrible." "Get these helmets on," Crane was crying. "There's a dozen of them, and 12 of us can stop Jandron's men if we get back in time." Kent and Liggett and the nearer of their men were swiftly donning the helmets. Krell grasped one, and Crane sought to snatch it. "Let that go. We'll not have you with us when we haven't enough helmets for our own men." "You'll have me or kill me here," Krell cried, his eyes hate mad. "I've got my own account to settle with Jandron." "Let him have it," Liggett cried. "We've no time now to argue." Kent reached towards the girl. "Marta, give one of the men your helmet," he ordered, but she shook her head. "I'm going with you." Before Kent could dispute, she had the helmet on again, and Crane was pushing them into the airlock. The 9 or 10 left inside without helmets hastily thrust steel bars into the men's hands before the inner doors closed. The outer one opened and they leapt forth into space, floating smoothly along the wreck pack's border with bars in their grasp. 13 strong. Kent found the slowness with which they floated forward torturing. He glimpsed Crane and Liggett ahead, Marta beside him, Krell floating behind him to the left. They reached the projecting freighters, climbed over and around them, braced against them, and shot on. They sighted the Pallas ahead now. Suddenly they discerned another group of 11 figures in spacesuits approaching it from the wreck pack's interior, rolling up the tube line that led from the Pallas as they did so. Jandron's party. Jandron and his men had seen them and were suddenly making greater efforts to reach the Pallas. Kent and his companions, propelling themselves frenziedly on from another wreck, reached the ship's side at the same time as Jandron's men. The two groups mixed and mingled, twisted and turned in a mad space combat. Kent had been grasped by one of Jandron's men and raised his bar to crack the other's glassite helmet. His opponent caught the bar, and they struggled, twisting and turning over and over, far up in space amid a half-score similar struggles. Kent wrenched his bar free at last from the other's grasp and brought it down on his helmet. The glassite cracked, and he caught a glimpse of the man's hate-distorted face, frozen instantly in death. Kent released him and propelled himself toward a struggling trio nearby. As he floated toward them, he saw Jandron beyond them, making wild gestures of command, and saw Krell approaching Jandron with upraised bar. Kent, on reaching the 3 combatants, found them to be 2 of Jandron's men overcoming Crane. He shattered one's helmet as he reached them, but saw the other's bar go up for a blow. Kent twisted frantically, uselessly, to escape it, but before the blow could descend, a bar shattered his opponent's helmet from behind. As the man froze in instant death, Kent saw that it was Marta who had struck him from behind. He jerked her to his side. The struggles in space around them seemed to be ending. 6 of Jandron's party had been slain, and 3 of Kent's companions. Jandron's 4 other followers were giving up the combat, floating off into the wreck pack in clumsy, hasty flight. Someone grasped Kent's arm, and he turned to find it was Liggett. "They're beaten," Liggett's voice came to him. "They're all killed but those 4. "What about Jandron himself?" Kent cried. Liggett pointed to 2 spacesuited bodies twisting together in space, with bars still in their lifeless grasp. Kent saw through their shattered helmets the stiffened faces of Jandron and Krell, their helmets having apparently been broken by each other's simultaneous blows. Crane had gripped Kent's arm also. "Kent, it's over!" he was exclaiming. "Liggett and I will close the Pallas exhaust valves and release new air in it. You take over helmets for the rest of our men in the Martian Queen." In several minutes Kent was back with the men from the Martian Queen. The Pallas was ready, with Liggett in its pilot house, the men taking their stations, and Crane and Marta awaiting Kent. "We've enough fuel to take us out of the dead area and to Neptune without trouble," Crane declared. "But what about those 4 of Jandron's men that got away?" "The best we can do is leave them here," Kent told him. "Best for them, too, for at Neptune they'd be executed, while they can live indefinitely in the wreck pack." "I've seen so many men killed on the Martian Queen and here," pleaded Marta. "Please don't take them to Neptune." "All right, we'll leave them," Crane agreed, "though the scoundrels ought to meet justice." He hastened up to the pilot house after Liggett. In a moment came the familiar blast of the rocket tubes, and the Pallas shot out cleanly from the wreck pack's edge. A scattered cheer came from the crew. With gathering speed, the ship arrowed out, its rocket tubes blasting now in steady succession. Kent, with his arm across Marta's shoulders, watched the wreck pack grow smaller behind. It lay as when he first had seen it, a strange great mass floating forever motionless among the brilliant stars. He felt the girl beside him shiver, and swung her quickly around. "Let's not look back or remember now, Marta," he said. "Let's look ahead." She nestled closer inside his arm. "Yes, Rance, let's look ahead." End of The Sargasso of Space by Edmund Hamilton.